Good afternoon, everyone. That recording button says we're officially official here. I'm Dan Cunningham, and I want to thank you for joining us here today. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs and Education at Forward Janesville, so it's great to have you all on this call, our critical topic webinar. Did want to let you know that today's call is presented by BMO Harris Bank. BMO Harris Bank has dedicated bankers in the local market who understand your business, industry, and market, and offer solutions tailored to your unique needs. BMO has deep roots in the community, along with a long history of supporting Forward Janesville and other local nonprofit organizations. Thanks to BMO Harris for their support of this organization and the community. So thanks to them for their support. They've been terrific partners. So before we get into the program today, I want to remind you that you can submit questions. We're going to have a presentation, then do questions at the end. So I'd like for you to use the chat function, and you can send them in a direct message to me. So I'm Dan Cunningham, the guy up here with the Forward Janesville background. Please direct message your questions to me, and I'll curate them and ask those questions to our panelists. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic. We are thrilled to welcome an esteemed panel to give us the latest information on the Woodman's Sports and Convention Center project proposal. So on the call, we have panelists, City Neighborhood and Community Services Director, Jennifer Petrozello. Jennifer, thanks for joining us. We have Christine Rebout from the Janesville Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have Friends of the Indoor Sports Complex Project Manager, Sabrina Syker-Bowerman. Sabrina, sorry if I mistitled you in some of our email promotions here, but we're looking forward to hearing from you. And we also have South Central Regional President of Johnson Bank, Larry Squire, on the call as well. So a couple quick notes about things. I'm going to mute everybody, so don't feel bad if I come through and mute you. Playing whack-a-mole, making sure everybody's muted here so we can hear our presenters just as well as we possibly can. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to Larry Squire. Larry, why don't you lead us off here?
You bet. Thanks, Dan, for the introduction, and thanks everybody for taking your time to join on this call. There's been a lot of information out there, and I think, this project has been going on a long time in terms of what do we need to do next with the ice arena, indoor sports complex, a number of different versions of this. And it's leading up to that we have to do something. I think that is probably the key aspect of this whole conversation is that, and Christine, I don't know if you're going to try and share some of the slides, but if you've been down to the current ice arena recently, you know that it's run its course. It does not meet hardly any of the needs of the community. We all know about kids, and adults and other users of the ice arena being there at all hours of the morning and all hours at night, because there just isn't enough ice time available for the community as it has continued to grow since that facility was constructed. And then if you add in the jets and a few other needs, we just don't have the time, space, and that facility is going to have to be replaced within the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, depending on how much we want to spend to make it limp along. So it isn't if we want to do that, it's when and how. And I think that's a really critical aspect of the conversation, that the city has estimated that they would have to spend between 12 and 15 million, and who knows, based on cost, to replace the existing one-sheet facility, okay? That's a very important fact to start with for the day, that there is a baseline spend that is gonna have to take place in order to have just a one-sheet facility and still not have enough space, time, and energy for the utilization. And there it is right there. We've all been down there with the low ceilings and everything else and watch pucks bounce off that and watch people be crowded into it. So something has to happen. And so we started looking at what that should be. And then we started looking at how do we make the best situation for our community. And that's when it really started to look at, okay, probably need to have 2 sheets of ice in order to accommodate the time and all the other aspects of hockey. But then having that second sheet and having it flex means that during some off-hour times, we could do other things there, other indoor sports, other activities, and other to be determined. And then Christine will talk about why a convention center. And part of it is the economics. If we put the three together, the economics change considerably. And all of a sudden you get a lift out of the three together. The synergy is very, very impressive. And then location. Why do we want to do it where we're doing it? Another opportunity to change the face of our community. So there are a lot of great reasons. I'll talk about fundraising later, but I just wanted to start, the conversation. This has been going on and work behind the scenes with the city. They've been doing an amazing job of trying to come up with a good plan. And no plan is ever perfect, but Janesville is resilient. We know how to work together. We know how to find a right path. Jennifer will talk about that. But just know that we have to do something. Now the something is, how do we do the best we can for the community? And that's the goal of this organization and team that's together right now, seeing how we can make it all happen. So from there, I'll quit talking and we'll let it move on and keep this conversation going. So thanks, Dan.
You bet. Thank you so much, Larry. Christine, I don't know if you wanted to go through some of the slides here, or who wants to go next?
I think I'm up next, Dan.
Okay.
This is Jennifer. Although I'm hoping that Christine can put the slides back up, because this is a much more interesting project to look at than be looking at me as I'm talking to you about it. And the first comment that I wanted to share was really that as we're going through the presentation, a lot of the images that you're going to see are what we would call our inspiration images, our initial thoughts on what this could look like. We do have a draft rendering, the first rendering that we've received from our design team to share with you all as well. But just wanted to let you know that we're still in the midst of our design process. So those actual interior finishes and those items are yet to be determined, yet to be finalized. I don't know, Christine,
Jennifer, it looks like she may have dropped off inadvertently, so she may be popping back on here. So maybe
Christine lost internet. So Dan, I had emailed you the slides. Do you mind pulling them up? I'll try to also see if I can share my screen. Sorry about that, guys.
We're used to it by now, right?
yes.
This is the way it goes. So,
Technology is wonderful when it's working. But I'm going to go ahead and keep going because we got lots of good information to share while Sabrina's getting that pulled up. Oh, and we've got it here already. Maybe not. Here we go. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, but I think it's really important for everyone here in this room to have a really good understanding of the main project goals that we are looking at with this project. These are reasons why we started looking at this project and benefits that we see for our community. First and foremost, this project is designed to spur economic impact and generate jobs within our community. We've talked as this group minimally that economic impact, 10 million annually. That's a very conservative number for what we've talked about. But I think it's a nice round number people can get their head around. Generating an additional $6.6 million in personal income growth on an annual basis and bringing 170 full and part-time jobs. I'm hoping that Sabrina will have time to share some of the really good information she gathered in having conversations with our local business community in terms of actual examples that they would see for this project or driven from this project. Secondarily, we're looking at producing equitable health and social outcomes. You may be aware that Rock County ranks 62 out of 72 counties for poor rankings for our health outcomes. And this is particularly the case for areas of obesity, physical inactivity, and access to exercise opportunities. These are all areas that we are hoping to counteract and make some positive headway on, particularly for those who experience diabetes, heart disease, and mental health conditions like anxiety and depression, through the multitude of activities that we will be able to offer through this facility. Thirdly, this project will spur redevelopment along a major community gateway and retail corridor. We're looking at demolishing the 120,000 square foot former Sears property that has been vacant for a number of years now, and really promoting adaptable mixed-use redevelopment and redefining that entire area, helping to stabilize property values and support the nearby hospitality and retail businesses. I know that later in our presentation, we're going to be able to show you some initial thoughts that Rockstep has prepared for additional development that would occur on their property. From my perspective, we all drive by this every day. We see the Sears building. Maybe pull in that parking lot and stop for a minute and take a look around that area, because that is the additional redevelopment opportunity and potential that we're talking about. We've got sites, former Toys R Us, vacant properties, underdeveloped properties, all within view if you sit there in that parking lot and look outward. And lastly, but not least, we're looking to build community resilience. This happens in a number of ways. It happens through that improved physical, social, and mental health outcomes that we talked earlier. It creates a third space in our community, which is that social communal space that Angela introduced us all to, separate from home and work, that community gathering space that can be programmed for physical health and well-being activities. And secondarily, economic resiliency. This project will allow Janesville to really expand into the sports, tourism, and convention sectors in a way that we have not been able to do in the past. Those are our four main goals and areas that we are looking to achieve with this project. Just a really quick overview on our project timeline. Larry mentioned, we've been at this for a while. Our initial feasibility study was way back in 2018. That really defined what we were doing here, and that it made good economic sense for us here as a community. We've worked our way through a very public and extensive site selection process, various study sessions with our city council. And we are currently a little bit past middle with the yellow dot, fundraising, site acquisition, and design currently in process. You're going to hear more about that here today, but we are working towards city council approval and award of bid next spring, with construction beginning in that late spring, early summer time period, and facility opening the following year. It's about a 15-month construction time period. With that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Christine. I can see Christine.
Yeah, it appears she's on mute. Christine, can you mute?
On mute or frozen.
Oh no.
I'm going to start to go through a little bit of this facility overview here, and I hope that Christine joins in and able to take over for me. Just interrupt as you can, or Sabrina, if you want to do that. But what you're looking at here
Hello.
is, there we go.
Hello.
I can't hear you. Can you guys hear me now?
Hi, Christine, we can hear you.
Great. I am now in Sabrina's desk.
All right.
Sorry for our tech difficulties and watching me try to pull down my internet and set up a hotspot.
We're going to let you take over here with the facility overview.
Sabrina's going to go try to run the slides for us, so we'll see how that goes. This is the slide that really, for people, helps them understand what the project is. It kind of dispels those myths of this solely being an ice arena or all of the things that it's not. So if we just take a look at the slide, and if we move from the left to the right, you'll see a little whited out area on the lower right-hand corner. That's a shell build out where we hope to be able to put in additional things as the facility grows, whether it's high school locker rooms or additional storage space. This is our way to really utilize the footprint, but bring that design cost down. Up above that in the small green box, you're going to see some space for our jets. And then we move right over into the light blue ice colored area. That's exactly that. That's our permanent ice sheet. So that's the home for the Janesville Jets. It's where we do tournaments. It's where we do the Janesville youth hockey play. It's where all of our ice sports currently go. Around there, you'll see some locker room spaces, wet locker, dry locker, for anybody using that ice space. If we keep moving over to that center section, that lighter kind of salmon colored, that's really our all things to all people space. Seasonally, that's going to be ice. So it's going to be ice from fall to spring. And then during those summer months, that ice will come out. And that then becomes dry space. So it can be basketball, volleyball, soccer, any of those indoor sports, and it can be overflow meeting and convention space. And you can see in there, we can fit 4 basketball courts in. We pair that up with the dark orange space, we can get 8 of those courts. We can do a lot of those things there. And I suspect Sabrina's having the same internet problems I am running the slides. So you're not going to be able to see those right now. But if you can remember what we were just looking at, you can see that space that has convention space on the far left. And that allows us to have 20,000 square feet of space. And all of you can easily kind of picture the Holiday Inn that we've been previously using as space, and picture twice that space. And then you are able to envision what we're going to have for meeting space. So traditionally, we've been able to hold, occasionally maybe a 100 or 200 person event. But the challenge is if you've got a meeting with 200 people, 250 people, and you want to have a big gathering, everybody comes together for a keynote speaker, then you want to break out and do a meal function, a lunch function. And then you want to do a breakout for 4 meeting spaces for other people. We just don't have that space in our current 10,000 square feet at the Holiday Inn Express. So now we've got the ability to have those conferences, those really what I call bread and butter, 350 person events all of the time. In the front of that, you'll see a 3 meetings room in a space. You'll see some restrooms. You'll see skate rental. You'll see admin offices in the front. There's also a great spacious entranceway there. That becomes programmable space too for small gathering groups of people, for sponsorship opportunities, as well as that yellow hallway between those 2 dark orange and light orange sections. In the back there, all the things that make the facility run, catering, Zamboni space, storage space, all those good things, and a connector right into the mall. So there'll be that ability to access the Janesville Mall right from the facility. And if we take a look, and I think, Dan, you're running our slides for us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be glad to help.
Internet on your side of the town's working. Thank you.
Yes.
If we move on to the next slide, you really be able to see how that space flexes out and really becomes usable, that third space that can be so many things. You can see on the lower right-hand corner, that's the typical 203-person, 100-person event where you're sitting together at a main function, you have a breakout space, you have a classroom space. We can host all of that. And just a sample of what business is out there, we looked at our lost business report. We had about $5.5 million of what we call lost business, things we bid on, things we tried to get that we couldn't. About half of those, the reason was it's just not big enough. All the facilities we had from when we did have Pontiac Convention Center to what we have at Holiday Inn just doesn't quite make the size cut. You can see all the other layouts there, large, 1,000 people for a large speaker event, just a seating event there. You can see a trade show booth setup. You can see it as those basketball courts, volleyball courts, tournament, and indoor turf for soccer and other events. So this flexibility is really what makes this space usable 365 days a year. I don't want to say 24 hours of the day because I don't think we're going to be there at 2 a.m., but a lot of the days and hours that facility can really be used. I'll kind of go on and talk a little bit about the spaces that you see here. So let's use the Forward Janesville Annual Dinner as an example. That's what that convention space could look like, set up that Kennedy Family Foundation space. And here you see it as a basketball court. So, and you can, again, all ages. So you've got your young players, older players, anybody can be in there in that space for set up as hard court. Here you'll see that center ice arena that has that flexibility. You'll see the players on the ice. You'll see people watching. Just a great opportunity for people to see and come to a game. And then there's that multi-purpose arena too that has that flexibility in it in the center. And here it is set up for soccer in that center space. And again, that multi-purpose arena is basketball. So the ability to change that out. Then we go on and we can talk a little bit about economic impact. And by year 5, the facility will host well over 200 separate events, 38,000 participants, 80,000 spectators, and a total attendance of 120,000. Now, this is the study that was done for us pre-COVID. And I would say that it's probably stronger than ever. Youth sports are the last thing that people want to cut from their family budgets. You're going to have little Billy, little Susie's going to want to participate in youth sports. We also are seeing that pent up demand for meeting and conference businesses. People are tired of Zoom. This is beautiful. I'm happy we're all together when the technology works, but how much better is it to be in one space together? And again, you can see there are more than 10 million in annual spending, and that's for local businesses, you know, people who are right across the street or the new business who's not there yet. So it's that great opportunity to create economic impact. And then here you can see the economic impact that happens just on the Uptown Janesville master plan area. You'll see the opportunity to add things like new multifamily housing, an outdoor courtyard. We have interest in a new hotel going up in that facility. Again, just all kinds of new growth that will spur in the development. We did some letters of recommendation for some of our grants, and I think we saw close to $10 million in private economic investment that would happen once this facility comes. So all of the restaurants, hotels, retailers in that whole Milton Avenue corridor have plans to make investments on this project.
Christine, can I jump in real quick? Is the youth activity and amusement center, is that the same as what was proposed? I think it was called the Hype or something like that, that Rockstep had proposed some time ago.
It's not that exact Hype project, but they know that something like that needs to go in there, but it won't be the exact project labeled as Hype.
Okay, very good.
If you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide. It's important to point out that our organization sees the value in this. Again, our goal is to create economic impact through tourism, and we know and believe this project will do that. So we've made a commitment to put 10% of our share of Janesville room tax funds towards operations of this facility, because we know there's a startup period. It takes about 4 or 5 years for everybody to get used to the site being there, to see it, to start to use it. So we'll support that operational support. Based on just what estimated room tax will be, that'll be about $75,000 a year. We also will provide the support that we do for all of our attractions and activities. Our sales staff, Lori, you all know Lori Johnson on our staff. She goes to trade shows where she meets with sports rights holders. She goes to the team shows, takes 20 appointments one-on-one with rights holders. So we'll continue to do that. We'll send out bids as we always have for sports meetings, all of that. We also have dedicated sections on our webpage, profile sheets, all of the services that we do to help bring people in, we'll do full scale for this project. I think with that, Sabrina and I are going to trade places quick, and we'll talk a little bit about the letters of support we've seen.
Thanks, Christine. Hey, everyone. Jennifer touched on this a little bit earlier, but what I can tell you about the letters of support, and the most important thing, it's been a hugely collaborative effort by a number of different parties. So the city of Janesville, the Friends of the Indoor Sports Complex, Ford Janesville, those were some of the leaders who helped solicit these letters of support of our project. And on the board, you'll see some really impactful quotes that we've been able to pull from these letters of support. Where these letters of support have been very helpful is in our grant applications and soliciting other funds for the project, such as our requests with the state and our requests with federal funds also. But the most important thing is that it's been a huge collaborative effort. Larry?
Get myself back on track here. Yeah, it has been an amazing effort by just a lot of people from a lot of different spaces. And in listening to Jennifer and, where this has come along from a community standpoint, Christine, and, the impact it would have on the businesses in our community. The support has been very, very widespread. And you can see we're off to a great start. We're kind of at a point of getting set to go for the next round, as we were waiting for some of these renderings and other items to really show people what this is going to look like. And so we're at a good spot. We do have a goal to try to get to $9 million as a community fundraising group, the FISC group. And then there are multiple other sources from the city and other grants that we're trying to build a capital stack that can produce the project that we want, and we'll see where it all goes. But it does get back to that idea, whatever the project we would want, we still have to do something. So how are we going to make it happen and make it be great? Dan, if you could flip to the next one. The sponsorship opportunities that are out there, here's just a brief overview of those. A lot of different ones. You can see where Woodman's and Mercy Health and Kennedy Family Foundation have already stepped up on some key ones. We're in the process now of kind of that next tier. I know we've got a couple of conversations going on for the multi-purpose arena for the $1 million, and hopefully one of those will come in and give us a boost, but certainly then moving down into some of that premier and other levels, we're going to be making concerted efforts. We've already had good initial conversations with people, but we'll keep reaching out. And then if you can go to the next slide, Dan, this is where it really gets then into the community campaign. And at some point, we've all been around projects. We know that you start with your key donors, your lead sponsors, all those type of things. But then at the end of the day, it comes up to how do you bridge that difference with the community support? And you've heard already that this is a community project, that this, Jennifer said, it'll build community resilience, social and economic resilience that we know is so important and fits with who Janesville is as a community. The quality of life is what we kind of hang our hat on when we, go look for companies that want to relocate here, when we want to hire new folks, when we want to have people relocate here. It's about quality of life. And this is, that next huge, broad-reaching project that really brings together that social and economic qualities that really come together. Christine gave the example of what happens when we add the convention center. How many different people get to see Janesville, because we can bring in that sweet spot of 250 to 500, person conventions. Have them here for a couple days. Show off our community. Let them know why they should be moving here. By having more tournaments coming in here, whether it's volleyball tournaments or hockey tournaments, more people see our community. That's why this project, is so key. And not to get dramatic, but we get one shot to get this right. Again, because the ice arena will be going down, we have to do something. And we all know that these projects, you only get one shot to get it right. So this is our shot to get it right, to have an impact on this community that'll be long lasting, for the next 30 to 50 years. This is a signature of what we can do. And we revitalize a key corridor of our community out on Milton Avenue that people see when they come into our great city. So this is about the future. It's about having a vision, and it's about stepping up and making it happen. So there's a lot going on with this, and I'm just excited to be part of it because I know this will be transformational. We just got to make it happen. So those are my comments. Sabrina, you got the rest?
I got it, Larry.
All right.
To build off what Larry said, one of the cool things about this being a multi-generational project, and the youth in our community, they're very excited about this project. This past spring, I had an opportunity to mentor 5 students in the Elevate program. And they did a lot of things they've never done before. They attended a city council meeting. Most of them had never done that before. They attended one of our Friends of the Indoor Sports Complex meetings. They worked with spreadsheets. None of the 5 had worked with a spreadsheet before. And the project that they said they learned the most with was when they had to pick up the phone and call local businesses and talk to people over the phone. That's just something these kids I worked with hadn't had a lot of experience with, and they thought that was a really good learning experience for them. One of the things I'm most proud of in working with Fisk and the Elevate program was that at the end of this term, the students wrote letters to the editor expressing their experience. And to quote Matthew McBride, he said, working on this project instilled a passion for local projects within me. And he continued, I'm eager to serve my community in the future. So really hearing it from the youth, that's, his own words, that was published by the Janesville Gazette. That's really motivating. And that's, for me personally, that's what brings me to the table. Dan, if you can hop to the next slide. I'm a proud Janesville native, but I left for furthering my education. I went to UW-Madison and then 7 years in Oakland, California, my husband's hometown. And 2 years ago, he got a job in Madison, Wisconsin, and we had to ask ourselves, where, do we want to be in Janesville? Do we want to be in Madison, Sun Prairie? And I had seen some of the changes that DGI for Janesville, the city of Janesville, so many people have made in my hometown, and Art Infusion, one of them that really inspired me. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that. So part of this project, being a part of this project, I know that the young families, this is what is attracting them to Janesville projects like that. And Dan, we have a few more inspiration photos to show everyone. All these photos aren't exact replicas of whatever facility it will be, but inspiration of what it can be.
And then I'm just going to wrap up with the idea that people say, well, it brings a lot of people to town, but what does that really mean for the town? And I think it's important to remember that it brings people here, and that's a first step. And we like to say that tourism is the first date of economic development, because you're coming here and you're meeting Janesville, and then you're going to fall in love and build something, whether it's bringing your family here for relocation, bringing your business here to start up a business, or just bringing your money here and leaving it behind. So just a reminder that those tourism visitors are just on their first date with Janesville. And I think with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate you hopping on this call and giving us this great update. And again, if we're recording this so people can go back and grab the recording and get the comments there and all the slides as well. So I have a couple of questions here, and I would encourage anybody who has a question, please, again, direct message it to me in the chat function so I can take a look at them before I ask them. So let's see here. So got a couple questions here. So number one, why is it so difficult to establish a maximum not to exceed projected cost so that the parameters for taxpayer consideration are established? Would this not also make a decision by the city to fund a portion of the facility more transparent consideration? After all, whatever the city spends from borrowing may mean that other priorities have to be sacrificed. So, give us a little talk about how much this is actually going to cost. I know it's been a bit of a, as design happens, you're going to get numbers in there, but anybody want to comment on the cost of the facility?
So I think, Dan, one of the reasons why it's hard to say for sure is because this is a collaborative project and we're looking for that public-private partnership and the magnitude of the project that really requires us to look out and diversify those revenue sources. We've been working under an estimated budget of 41 million. That was based on a 2019 estimate, broad order of magnitude estimate for how much facilities like this may cost, and trying to apply some inflationary figures based on a very uncertain economic environment as it relates to construction with major facilities. So the City Council approved us to go forward into the design phase, in part so that we can begin to see what those costs are for the specific project that we want to build here in Janesville and the current market conditions that we have. And our design team, which is a group of individuals throughout the community, include Christine Rebout is on our committee, Angela Pakes is on our committee, city council member, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee members, members of representatives from Rockstep and others are serving on that committee, and they'll be receiving just our first look at the cost based on our proposal later today, actually. So we'll have more discussions to come on that. But one of the reasons it is so hard is because that project is still being designed and the volatility in the construction market right now.
Understood. Any other participants panelists want to weigh in on the cost?
I think the analogy that I've given some people is it's like asking, what is your dinner at Red Robin going to cost tonight? Well, you don't know exactly what you're having. You don't know exactly what your menu is going to be built from. And you don't know if they've raised their prices on their chicken fajitas because their cost went up. So it's kind of like comparing, going to the store and not knowing exactly what you're going to put in your cart.
Yeah, makes sense. Another question, we're going to hop around here a little bit to questions. So how about parking? I mean, when you're getting rid of the Sears store, I assume the facility is going to go out into the parking lot a little bit. Is the parking going to be sufficient for what we're talking about here, which could be, 1,000 person or more events? Are we going to have enough parking out there?
We believe so, yes, and that's one of the benefits of the location that we are, is there's a very large underutilized parking field in place, both in that, what I'll call the front portion of the mall, that area between Milton Avenue and the site, as well as to the rear. So Rockstep will be donating the property that houses the Sears building and that parking field between Sears and Milton Avenue up to the entranceway by Refset. I've got the right street, the Kohl's entrance area, will become city parking in support of this facility. And then there will be a shared parking use agreement with Rockstep, so that at times where we have larger events, some of that's going to overflow into other areas of Uptown's parking, and vice versa. At times that when there's lower parking needs, that will be available for Uptown use. We've also talked about how some of those convention activities, for convenience of users, like to do like bus shuttles, transportation from the hotels, so that all of those vehicles aren't parked at that facility through the entire duration of the conference.
Okay, very good. Got some more questions here. If it, in the interest of time, we've got about 7-8 minutes here, so I'm gonna pick and choose because I have a lot of questions. Frankly, there's a lot of interest in here. Christine, will the build include where the Boston store was? I mean, what's going to happen with the Boston store site? Are you aware of? Did you go over that in that one slide, or did I miss that?
Yeah, that's shown in there. I don't want to speak for Rockstep. I know they have a lot of things in discussions. I know they have plans for all the areas there, but I don't want to make any promises for Rockstep in Uptown Janesville.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, we'll wait for that information later on. I think as we go through the process, we'll start to learn that, hey, this is going to happen here and other places as well. So I got a question about workforce, which I think is interesting. I mean, as we know, the community is struggling to have enough workers for current employers. I mean, do we have the capacity for the workforce needed for a facility like this? And I mean, do you have an idea of what that number might be in terms of how many people could work in a facility like this?
Jennifer, I don't know if you've got it in front, but I think we talked about just workers at the facility. I want to say 6, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think the initial staffing plan for the facility itself was 6 full-time and then a number of part-time employees. We are aware, of course, of the staffing challenges, and we will be looking at utilizing support services from a management company to operate the facility, in part because of that. But we also see this facility as a way to increase that quality of life and help the community to attract and retain the workers that our businesses are currently struggling to obtain in this market.
I think it's also important to remember that some of those will be high level jobs. We're going to need facility manager. We're going to need, facility sales staff. So some of these will be higher level jobs that will attract new families to the area.
Okay, very good. Let's see here. Boy, I got a lot of questions here. This is great. I love it. There's a lot of interest in this, obviously.
And will you save them all for us and we can literally send out a document that gives all those answers?
Yes, I can, and that's a great idea. And I think Angela told me how to do that after one of our last calls. So thanks for your technical expertise, Angela. So when you think about current convention spaces in Janesville, like the Holiday Inn Convention Center, where we have our annual dinner and other events, how is this space different? I mean, beyond a big room and breakout rooms, I mean, how would you differentiate it from what's already out there in Janesville?
Sure. And we have to remember too, we've been spoiled because we had Pontiac Convention Center, we had the Armory. Those facilities have come off market. So we went from having almost 70,000 feet of total meeting space in the community down to under 30 right now. So it's just going to broaden that space tremendously. But Holiday Inn's contiguous space, the space that we are all used to using, is about 10,000 square feet. So this will be twice that space. So it'll allow us to break that room up or use it in a large scale facility. It also has that area just outside that yellow hallway that you saw that gives you gathering space for additional booths, additional breakout. It's also nice to have that amenity right next door in the Janesville Mall. I remember there's a Kansas City facility that's kind of a quad where there's a mall and a hotel and a conference center. So, when you're on a break or if I'm traveling with my husband and he's going to a conference, I can go and shop and leave some economic impact in that community behind. So it's about the larger scale space, but it's also about the amenities that are nearby and that ability to easily spend money. So it in no way replaces the great facilities that we have in Holiday Inn and the others, but it adds something bigger and adds an ability to get new meetings that we've never been able to grab before. Even so smaller 200, 3-person meetings that need breakout space, we simply can't do it.
Right. Okay, thank you, Christine. I've got a direct question about soccer. Someone's wondering, is this flex space big enough to actually host an indoor soccer game? I mean, is that space? Have you done all the measurements of what the soccer federation says is the right size for an indoor soccer game? I mean, I assume all that work's been done, but tell us more.
I can't tell if Jennifer's going to jump in, so I will, and she'll correct me. That's how we're going to play this game.
Okay.
That center section would hold a full-scale soccer field. It's about equivalent to that 20,000 square feet on the left.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, so I've got a couple more questions here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. I've got a question that actually, and maybe this isn't necessarily a question that you can answer, but it's a question that interests me and it interests our organization. If the goal is to attract new families to the area, what is the plan for more housing? And I'd say that's probably a topic for a future call and past calls as well. I mean, we've certainly seen that as the community grows and economic development efforts continue to be successful, that our housing situation is going to have to rise to meet that challenge. So it's certainly a challenge that we're interested in at Forward Janesville and something we're working on. So I don't know if anybody had any comments on where we're going to put all these people, but feel free.
Yeah, I'll hop in.
That's theoretically I was going to say that's theoretically my day job, as this project is kind of encroached in that. But yeah, housing is definitely a much larger topic and something that we are concerned about as well. Something that we are wanting to continue to explore how we can positively impact that housing construction to occur here. And Janesville is still, very attractive for affordable housing, as you know. So what we're seeing is that the housing market changes are not isolated to us. So that's bringing more people to our community in search of more affordable options, putting further strain on our housing environment.
Yes, absolutely.
And Jennifer mentioned earlier, when we were soliciting these letters of support for our grants, I met one-on-one with local business leaders, and I met with a couple of developers, one of which builds single family homes. And he said, definitively filled out a form to submit with our grant application. If this facility is built, I will build X amount of homes. I will put X amount of dollars in capital investment into my company and into this community. And then the form also measures how many jobs he'll create. If this facility is built, he'll need to add X amount of jobs to his team to make that happen.
Well, thank you for that. And I also want to thank Sarah Iverson Smith for putting in the chat function about some of our construction cost material changes. I mean, that's worth noting as we consider building this facility, how expensive things are getting. And last but certainly not least, our friend Gail Price, who says, build it and they will come. So that may be a good way to end it here. Well, we've reached our time here. I want to thank our participants and our panelists so much for this really impactful and important conversation about this facility. I assume there will be lots more information to come as we move throughout the fall and winter months. And hopefully you can share that information with us and we'll share it with our members as well. But we're going to keep talking about this. So thank you so much for this important information. Thank you all for logging on. Thanks to BMO Harris BMO Harris Bank for their support of this critical topic webinar series. And we will be back in September with another one of these. So we will see you then. So thanks everybody for logging on. Have a great day.
Thanks for hosting. Bye.
Thanks everybody.